We're undercover and on the prowl with the Dark Knight of Gotham City as we bring you the inside story on the grittiest and most definitive Batman film to have ever hit the screen. It's official, the Bat is back. Left for dead since 1997, Batman rises from the ashes this summer amidst a wave of passion-fueled anticipation.
I was like, oh my God, there's Batman.
Join us over the next 30 minutes as we meet the man who's put the dark back into the Dark Knight.
He is really just a guy who does a lot of push-ups, makes himself extraordinary simply through sheer force of will.
Round up Batman's faithful friends and evil enemies, and strip our new mystery crime fighter of his mask.
The interesting thing with Batman is that unlike other superheroes, he's questionable.
But first, shadowing Bruce Wayne on both his worldwide and private quest to become the Caped Crusader, Batman Begins promises to be a breed apart from its predecessors.
It's pretty rare to find a recognized iconic figure that hasn't really been shown to the audience in the terms of how did that character come to be. So I felt there was this gap really in movie history.
I've never seen Batman portrayed in my mind in any way that could be said to be definitive.
This is the most interesting Batman I've ever seen because it's logical. You see why he became Batman, why he wanted to become something scary in the first place, why he chose a bat.
I personally always wanted to know why this very rich dude, Bruce Wayne, dresses up in a funky costume to fight crime.
You even watch him make the costume, what he makes it out of, and the hat and the helmet and everything.
There's an answer to everything.
The man at the helm of bringing the brooding superhero back from the dead is British director Christopher Nolan.
Okay, say action. Action.
Who harbours a lifelong fascination with the iconic Caped Crusader.
I've always been a fan of the character of Batman. I couldn't claim to be any kind of comic book expert at all, but I love the character actually just from the old TV show that I'd seen, when I was 5 years old. And when you're a 5-year-old watching the old Batman TV show, you actually take it seriously. But I think it's testament to the strengths, the mythic power of the character, that even with that kind of campy, very jokey, very kitsch representation of it, there's still something elemental about the character that translates through that. It's a character I'd always been pretty excited about.
One of the most celebrated comic book superheroes ever, Batman instantly captured the imagination of readers when he was brought to life in 1939. His popularity led to both a TV series and film in the 60s. Only they showcased a child-friendly and camp incarnation of the Caped Crusader. The 1980s saw the superhero return to his roots at the hands of comic book legend Frank Miller, with his graphic novels The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One.
What are you? I'm Batman.
With his celebrity and profile reaching new heights, it was time to give Batman the big-budget Hollywood blockbuster treatment.
Action!
Director Tim Burton masterfully added his distinctive gothic tone to the story. And with Michael Keaton as Batman and Jack Nicholson as the Joker, the movie proved a monster success, spawning a lucrative franchise. However, Burton and Keaton pulled out after 1992's Batman Returns, leaving the series to go downhill and spectacularly crash in 1997 with the universally slated Batman and Robin.
This is why Superman works alone.
First, you just hope not to mess up a really successful franchise. Truly, that's your main goal.
Mark.
Despite his best intentions, Clooney's worst fear was realized.
Okay, Marty, roll it.
Director Joel Schumacher and a dreadfully miscast film did manage to mess up a once booming franchise.
You are not sending me to the cooler.
Regardless of the disaster, to Warner Brothers it was clear that their $1.3 billion Batman empire remained its prized asset, and so it was inevitable that attempts would be made to resurrect the fallen mystery crime fighter. Following a number of false starts on different projects, one of which pitted Batman against Superman, the task to snap the lucrative superhero out of cinematic limbo fell to Christopher Nolan.
I don't think anybody wanted to see a rehash of any of the other movies. So you needed to bring in new blood. And with Chris, you've got a very smart, sharp, filmmaker who has not had experience with making a movie of this size. Exactly because it was unexpected. I think that's why it was such a good idea.
Nolan's reputation as one of the most acclaimed directors of his generation had been cemented with his dark and intelligent films Insomnia and Memento.
Oh, I'm chasing this guy. No, he's chasing me.
Warner Brothers had an inkling that his moody screen sensibility, coupled with his novel approach to the Batman origin story, might just prove to be a masterstroke.
As you study the history of the comics, what you arrive at is a set of key milestones, things that in a sense are known about, Bruce Wayne's journey to becoming Batman. And then between these milestones, you have these sort of fascinating gaps, like the idea that, he leaves Gotham as a young man and travels the world for 7 years. But it's not really detailed as to what he's doing and who he meets in that period. You get these gaps that we were able to jump into and really have a bit of freedom in terms of what could have happened there.
Action!
We were very free to explore and experiment.
Relishing in the freedom to explore and experiment, Christopher Nolan was unafraid to search beyond the Hollywood casting comfort zone to find his Batman.
Storm's coming.
If you're trying to present the characteristics of Bruce Wayne that drive him to become Batman in a realistic fashion, and the whole tone of this film is intended to be one that's grounded in reality, then you're going to need an actor who can present simply through his eyes, through his expressions, the sheer self-discipline, the sheer rage and force of will that Bruce Wayne has to have to turn himself into this extraordinary figure.
Having brought bloodthirsty yuppie Patrick Bateman to life in American Psycho,
You're my lawyer, so I think you should know I've killed a lot of people.
and literally starved himself beyond recognition for The Machinist,
I haven't slept in a year.
it was British-born actor Christian Bale's fearlessness towards challenging and high-expectation roles that ultimately won Nolan over.
It was pretty arduous, because, I was coming from such a pathetic physical state. It was something that Chris was a little concerned about because I did have to screen test for Batman, and it was pretty close on the heels of finishing on The Machinist. So I was really stick thin, and I had to try and put on weight as quickly as possible so that he could convince the studio that I was somebody worth considering seriously.
The time at which I met him, he dropped 80 pounds to play this character in The Machinist. He then put on 100 pounds by the time he came to our set. Anybody with that determination and dedication to his art was clearly going to be the obvious choice to portray an obsessive.
First time he told me Christian Bale, I thought he's a bit on the thin side for Batman, but he ain't. Something happened.
So with the Batsuit proving a perfect fit for Christian Bale, the search to assemble the remaining cast members got underway. And for that, Christopher Nolan simply thought big.
Always mind your surroundings.
We wanted to give Batman the epic treatment that the character deserves. And making an epic isn't just about building big sets, it's about building big characters, and it's about building a believable set of people that the audience will be interested in.
Who are you? My name is merely Ducard, but I speak for Ra's al Ghul, a man greatly feared by the criminal underworld.
We just went to the top people to play these roles, to get Liam Neeson to play Ducard, Michael Caine to play Alfred, and Morgan Freeman to play Lucius Fox, and Ken Watanabe as Ra's al Ghul.
Gotham must be destroyed.
And balancing the celluloid greats are some newer, fresher faces, one of which was momentarily considered for the lead.
Chris tested about, 5 or 6 guys for the role. For me at that point, I was just thrilled to have a chance to work, however briefly, with Chris Nolan. I never considered myself particularly right for Batman, and then Christian got cast, which is obvious casting, I think, and he's done a fantastic job.
I'm Batman.
Then Chris called me up and said there's this other part in the movie, so I read that.
Dr. Crane?
Mr. West. I played Jonathan Crane, also known as the Scarecrow. He's one of the main bad guys in the movie.
This is the third of Carmine Falcone's thugs you've had declared insane and moved into your asylum.
Well, the work offered by organized crime must have an attraction to the insane.
I like playing strong female characters. Rachel grew up with Bruce Wayne, and she's the type of person that has worked hard for everything in her life, and she's a real fighter. I had heard that they were possibly going to be making the movie, and then I heard that Chris Nolan was going to direct it, and it was just like so exciting, and I couldn't wait to hopefully, sink my teeth into it. And when I found out that I was going to be a part of it, I was just so thrilled. It was like, oh yeah, I'm in Batman.
Excuse me. That's it for part 1, but keep watching, because coming up after the break, we join Bruce Wayne on a painstaking journey to self-discovery. Take a ride in one cool-looking piece of metal.
Does it come in black?
And reveal why you should be afraid. Be very afraid.
Where are you?
Here.
MTV at the movies, in partnership with Gizmondo.
I'm Chris Martin from the
album from My Chemical Romance.
MTV at the movies, in partnership with Gizmondo.
Welcome back to part 2 of making the movie Batman Begins.
Damn good television.
Coming up, Batman gets tooled up. Gotham gets shook up.
Where are you?
Here. And Katie gets revved up.
Oh my God, this is so cool.
But first, in order to realize his vision, director Christopher Nolan felt it absolutely crucial to portray a credible caped crusader. And achieving that meant exploring the psychology of Batman, probing just what made the Dark Knight dark in the first place.
Batman is a fascinating superhero. Is really the one I'm most interested in because he doesn't have any superpowers unless you count his extraordinary wealth. But beyond that, in physical terms, he is really just a guy who does a lot of push-ups, makes himself extraordinary simply through sheer force of will. The only thing that really prompts that journey to becoming this iconic figure is an intense rage and a burning sense of grief and injustice that he desperately has to find what to do with.
At the root of this burning sense of grief and injustice is the tragic death of his parents, which he witnessed as a young boy.
I miss him, Alfred. I miss him so much.
So do I, Master Bruce.
He's somebody who has put up and maintained a wall ever since that time, who does not let anybody really know who he is. His hatred and his rage is something that he carries with him always. That's genuinely there. That's in his soul.
Struggling to reconcile his rage with his need to honor his parents' legacy, Bruce sets off on a worldwide quest for answers.
I see it means to fight injustice.
There's this huge gap in the lore of Batman, okay, his parents get murdered when he's about 8 years old, and then suddenly he's Batman, running around Gotham. What the hell happens in between?
Do you still feel responsible for your parents' death?
My anger outweighs my guilt.
Come.
This man goes through this incredible journey and comes out the other end of it having learned something.
You have learned to bury your guilt with anger. I will teach you to confront it and to face the truth. You know how to fight 6 men. We can teach you how to engage 600.
This character I played, Henri Ducard, who's a citizen of many cultures and quite mysterious.
Ninja understands that invisibility is a matter of patience and agility.
Who recognizes something in Bruce Wayne that I feel I can help him.
Crime cannot be tolerated. Criminals thrive on the indulgence of society's understanding.
My character wants to defeat evil and corruption as much as he does.
Ninjutsu employs explosive powders.
As weapons?
Or distractions. Theatricality and deception are powerful agents. You must become more than just a man in the mind of your opponent.
Having honed both the mental and physical skills necessary to create his alter ego, Bruce prepares for his return to Gotham City. And there to meet him is his ever-loyal butler, Alfred Pennyworth.
He goes off in all these incredible adventures. He always comes back home, and there is the butler.
Master Wayne, you've been gone a long time.
Yes, I have. It's a real father figure. Real father figure.
You look very fashionable. Apart from the mud.
Batman has a very, very personal thing about servants and that kind of thing, you know. He's very much against it. So his natural playing with me is of a friend rather than some subservient minion.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. But as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
This camaraderie between the two is a sort of core reality and humanity in the middle of the film. What symbol?
Something elemental, something terrifying.
It was in selecting the symbol of fear that director Christopher Nolan recognized that it should be relevant to Bruce Wayne's own psychology.
When you're sitting down trying to explain, okay, why does this guy adopt the persona of a bat? What becomes important from reading the comics is that it's all about the use of fear against those who themselves use fear. We felt that it would be very significant in the story if, in looking for a symbol of fear, Bruce Wayne would grasp at and reach for his own worst fear, which in our story is the bat.
And so, with his skills harnessed and his symbol selected, Bruce turns to his late father's friend and Wayne Enterprises employee, Lucius Fox, to acquire the all-important tools to finally become Batman.
Here we are. Nomex survival suit for advanced infantry. Kevlar bi-weave, reinforced joints. He's been around for quite a while, and he knows this guy he knows Bruce from way back.
If you're uncomfortable.
Mr. Wayne, you don't want to tell me exactly what you're doing. When I'm asked, I don't have to lie. It's kind of interesting to see him come back as a grown-up.
What's that?
On the tumbler? Oh, you wouldn't be interested in that. Now he has purpose.
Does it come in black? This one is truly about Bruce Wayne and Batman. This is not a movie that's about the villains. The interesting thing with Batman is that unlike other superheroes, he's questionable.
What the hell?
He's unpredictable. He's so volatile. You could see he could very easily cross that line.
Where are you?
Here. And become the very thing that he's trying to fight.
You're getting lost inside this monster of yours.
I'm using this monster to help other people just like my father did.
Driven by the same need to bring justice to Gotham City is Assistant District Attorney Rachel Dawes, Bruce's closest childhood friend.
I heard you were back. I never stopped thinking about you.
Things are worse than ever down here. She's the voice of reason at times for Bruce.
What chance does Gotham have when the good people do nothing?
Because she's, trying to clean up the criminals of the city and make it a better place. Hold it! She kind of brings Batman into, where it all is happening. That's right, we better run.
Effectively fabricating the epic yet plausible world in which Batman's story unfolds was only made possible thanks to Christopher Nolan's tireless and continued drive for authenticity, highlighted by his aversion to the computer-generated in favor of the real.
It's a heightened reality, but you know what everything's made of. There's a texture to things that you can get your teeth into, really, and you can believe in these worlds.
I was just talking to the producer, and I said, I saw it. I said, there was a marvelous CGI image of Batman on the top of a skyscraper. And the helicopter, I said, goes right round the whole of Chicago. I said, that's the best CGI I've ever seen. And she said, that was the stunt double. He was strapped to the top of the skyscraper. and that was a real man. And that's what this movie is about. When you see it, it's real.
The day that I saw the Batmobile for the first time and heard it come on and the tires, and it was just like, oh my God, this is so cool.
And all the while, amidst the Batmobile's menacing roars and Gotham's towering sets, Christopher Nolan appeared seemingly unfazed by the enormity of his spectacular undertaking.
He's the best style of director because he doesn't tell you a lot. He lets you get on with it, and if it's wandering a little bit off the path, he can put you back with one sentence.
Pulling back, slowly, gently.
That's what I like in directors. I don't want to say too much. I put my price down if I make another one.
What I love about him, he's right beside the camera when he's shooting a scene. He's not in some back room watching a bank of monitors, you know, that a lot of directors favor. And we all love that as actors, you know, a director who's just really concentrating on you.
Action. If I hadn't been scared, they would still be alive.
One thing that I was a little concerned about looking at the schedule for Batman, which was 7 months of photography, which is not something I've ever experienced, was thinking, oh my God, is this going to be such a juggernaut that it's going to be really impersonal? I think the real saving grace there was the way that Chris handled that, because he approached it much more like an independent movie.
Okay, say action. Action.
Batman Begins is a wonderfully rare result of Hollywood's refusal to play it safe in the predictable world of the blockbuster. Saved by a fresh and inspired vision at the hands of Christopher Nolan and a dark and intense performance courtesy of Christian Bale, Batman has indeed been resurrected.
This does not look like another director who is just banging out another mega blockbuster movie. This looks like something that people care a great deal about and is very special.
All of the most interesting, epic, Hollywood entertainments that I saw when I was a kid had actually very realistic textures. I felt like it had been a very long time since I saw a film like that, so I was very excited to try and make one of these films.
Excuse me. If you were going to be a real man and become Batman, what are you, nuts? And then you see the way he does it, Christopher and Christian Bale. It's wonderful.
He's not on a tree, he's flying on rooftops!
I would hope that we'll be sitting here in a few years' time, talking about, the number 2.